Welcome back, you guys. Tonight we have a pretty interesting build on a Glock 19 Gen 5. Now, interesting because we're going to be doing the Hive, but it's almost all laser work. So we've done a couple of these in the past. I don't believe we've ever actually done a build video on this. We might have shown one of these at the end of a different build video, or maybe you guys have seen it on one of the tables at one of the shows. But no doubt, I have never taken you guys from beginning to end and actually showed you the work. A lot of laser work. I know there's a lot of people that follow along on the laser stuff. They want to kind of get some ideas of how we do it. This is going to be definitely going to be your build video that you're going to want to pay attention to. Let's briefly talk about the work. So Gen 5 19 FS, so we've got those front serrations. We'll be losing those. We're going to shave those off. So we have a portion of work that we're going to be doing over on the Tormach. Then most of it's going to be over to the laser, and then of course we'll be coloring. We're going to talk about the cut work first before we move from one machine to another. So shaving the sides, removing the factory text, removing the front serrations. We are still going to see a bottom section of serrations down here on what would be the lower edge. All the rest of that's going to come off. That's obviously done in preparation to clean the sides for the laser work. We want to make sure we're working with the cleanest sides possible. I know there's a lot of companies out there that kind of just engrave over existing text, and they're kind of like, yeah, it'll look cool, don't worry, it'll blend. For us, we don't want to do that. We want to shave it off. We want to make sure it's done right. In the end, we want to make sure that we have the most complete package of the highest quality possible as far as turning it out. So we're not going to skip any of those corners. We're not going to take any of those shortcuts just in order to get something done a little bit quicker. That's why you guys are going to see a little bit longer video here today. So we're also going to be doing an optic cut, relocating the dovetail. So we're going to end up cutting a Trijicon in the top rear, lose that factory dovetail, relocate that factory dovetail in the front zone, and that's kind of it for the CNC work on the slide. That's pretty much where we're going to wrap up there. A lot of it is just preparation for the laser. Like I said, we want to make sure that we're working with the cleanest possible sides, and that's going to kind of be it for that. So let's talk about the laser work. We have three different key pieces to this puzzle. We've got a frame, we've got a barrel, and of course we have the slide. Let's talk about the slide as it's in hand, and we'll start migrating over to some of these other ones. So with the laser cut Hive, what's going to end up happening is here on the front zone, we end up doing a series of Hive that runs down through here. It's a pretty small staggering pattern that we have. It's kind of like a row, smaller row, row, smaller row. It's kind of like an in and out pattern. And then it works around what would be the front sight here, where the front sight doesn't go over and into the pattern. So some of those end up having laser cut holes all the way through. Some of them are still solid. Overall, it's a really interesting pattern. It's highly accepted at the gun shows is the best way to say that. Most people come and pick up, they pick up the standard Hive package, they go, oh, wow, this is amazing. Then they put it right down immediately and they go, what is that? And they realize that there is a more advanced pattern that is available. Of course, it's laser cut, it does cost more because it takes longer to do, but overall, it is a very intricate based Hive design because of the tool that we're using in order to achieve the work. So that's going to kind of be it for the top zone. The sides, what's going to happen here is on the sides, we run a template that kind of goes from the front serration that you see here back to, I would say, maybe the Glock logo. We don't quite go much farther back than that because we do have the ejection side that we have to match it up on. So what ends up happening is we end up running a larger step down pattern, excuse me, that ends up kind of giving it some texture fill a little bit. So we do a slide reduction with a texture fill, okay, an outline, and then we end up going right through the process of actually doing a larger Hive, larger Hive, larger Hive, larger Hive. And these Hives, they overlap each other. So where they overlap each other, they almost make like an eye column that you see, or a pillar. So you have this Hive, and then another Hive, and then another Hive, and then everywhere where they overlap, we see hole, 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 all the way down through there. So it's a pretty interesting design because it's almost like a series of straight windows that's laser cut. But if you look at the big scheme of it, it's actually Hive laid over Hive laid over Hive, and the overlapping portion is a material removal. So it's definitely an interesting design there. Last but not least, on the slide, we will end up doing the Hive on the rear grips. To tie that in, we always have that on our Hive design. So we add that into the rear section to give us a little bit more traction here. Definitely interested in seeing that as a whole. We've done several of those before in the past. What we've never really done is done it with an optic. So I'm eager to see how does it look, how does it play, overall, what is the feel for it. So we've got a couple other key components here out on the table. Obviously, we've got a frame, we've got a barrel. Let's talk about the frame. We're going to end up doing our Hive stippling on the frame as well. So we're going to do the big zones here. We're going to do a little bit of a section here. We'll flip. We'll do the big zone here, a little bit of section there. Of course, everything will then get cleaned and colored all at the same time, so they still will be somewhat of a matching pattern. And then on the barrel, you guys have probably seen us do barrel work before on the Hives. As you guys know, on the webpage we sell them. So, excuse me, you're gonna see something very similar to this, where it's gonna be the Hive on the round part, we're gonna see some logo work on the top, we're gonna see some Hive on the left side, and the only difference is between this barrel and this barrel is that this one's also gonna be laser ported. Now, that's the very interesting part for me, is because I haven't laser ported using the Hive pattern yet. Obviously we've laser ported, you guys have seen that before with some of the Glock 18 clone based models, the semi-auto versions that are out there. We've done some clone barrels and some things like that that are ported, but we've never actually done a Hive barrel to that extent, and also done a porting on the barrel to work with the slide. So somewhere in this mix, I'm gonna have to take and cut the slide with the laser. I'll then tag the barrel, as I call it, so it's marked. The barrel will then come back out of the slide. We'll then laser port the barrel. We did this because the customer really wasn't after a threaded barrel, and in order to get an extended length barrel, you really have two options out on the market. You guys have probably seen that. If you haven't, I'll try to show one of the barrels here at the end of the video when we do the recap. But basically you have the ability to take a barrel that's longer than the slide, and then we can port it ourselves. The only way to really acquire one of those barrels is to use a G19 Gen 5. So they're kind of hard to get because they use the same locking lug as the 19s. Excuse me, once again, I'm still fighting a cold, as you probably know from the last video. And the other option that you have is to buy something like a Lone Wolf extended ported barrel. The problem with it is that they're like this long, and they're kind of annoying. For me, I'm not really after it. I don't like the extended ported ones, so that's why I've created some of the G17 ported ones. But in this particular case, it's more of an integral based porting because the barrel's not longer than the slide. So somewhere along the line here, we're gonna run the Hive, and then once we've run the Hive, we'll cut through the Hive and actually create a port or a series of ports that will match up with the slide. That's obviously another key feature to this build that we haven't done before. Really interested to see how that comes out as well. So guys, what we're gonna do now is we're gonna start right over on the Tormach. We're gonna go ahead and get that optic dovetail side shaved. Basically, we're gonna get that preparation work done for all the advanced work. We're gonna move you guys over to the laser. Pay attention on the laser. There's a lot of stuff going on over there. Once again, I know there's a lot of you guys that follow me for the techniques and things. Pay attention to what's going on. You might learn something there. In the end, we're actually gonna be doing a burnt bronze black, what's gonna be a battle worn on it, and then the barrel will be gold. So the barrel will go out gold, we'll come back, burnt bronze and black as far as battle worn, and overall I think we're gonna see a really cool project. So let's see what we come up with. All right, guys, we have a lot of pieces to this puzzle. We're going to take this one step at a time. We have had a couple of different changes throughout the build. I know you guys had an opportunity to see that work as it did unfold. An absolute ton of laser work. So we usually don't find ourselves doing quite this much laser work. It's usually a 50-50, or we find ourselves doing more CNC work. But in this particular case, a lot of laser work. So I want to take you guys through that one step at a time. I do want to talk about the changes that we made, why we made those changes, and kind of just give you more of a feel overall of what it took in order to do this. So optic cut in the back, relocated that dovetail to the front. Customer is going to be required to do something, to use something like a set of suppressor sights that are a little bit taller. They work a little bit better with the optic than what you would get with the factory ones that aren't tall enough. Let's talk about this front zone. I'm going to tell you already, the lighting in here does this absolutely no justice on the actual beauty of the pattern itself and the way in which the battle-worn Cerakote laid. It is just awesome. So that means that we're going to have to add some pictures to here. I'm going to try and do my absolute best to show this to you guys, but inside we're only going to get so good of an actual visualization. So that's why we add those pictures. On the left and right hand side, we did that shave down. That ended up allowing us to remove the factory text. Of course, we ended up removing the front serrations that were already here. We have these little knobs that are left over, and those actually played out really, really nice with the battle worn as well, giving a lot of detail through there. Now, the overstepped hive pattern on the side. So that's basically a hive overlaid with a hive, and it creates almost like an eye or a pillar cut through in the center. Really, really nice. Obviously, that's able to see some real nice barrel through there, which we'll get to here in a moment. Same thing on this side, shave this side all the way clean. We ended up doing that step down pattern over here. Really, really detailed. So it has a textured base bottom. So what it is, as you guys had seen, it steps down, and then it has an actual individual piece, like all these little individual ones, and then we cut the holes all the way through. So it's a multi-step base pattern is how we create that, and it gives us a textured bottom, as we also see the textured bottom in the non-hole cut top hive. So we want to give it not only the standard look of the slide, we also want to give it somewhat of a two-tone using that texture, and then of course we had the battle worn, which gives it more of a three-dimensional view. So hive in the back rear section, really, really nice as well. Love that, how that came out. Customer, halfway through the build, ended up deciding that they wanted to add some text to it, so we ended up adding some text. That played out really nice as far as filling in the zone that really was kind of blank here. We get a lot of blankness over on this side, which this is usually where we would run a logo, run text, run something along that line, because it's such a large open canvassed area. And the battleware type pattern really was able to show that extremely nice. So we'll add some pictures there. Let's set this aside. We're going to move on to the barrel. And actually, you know what? We skipped one thing, which is the most important piece to this puzzle, and that is the laser ported edges. So we ended up doing a laser port on both sides. This was one of the last things we had done. So the way in which I had to build this was CNC work, do the laser work, do the barrel work, come back, see how the barrel lays inside of the slide, port the slide, port the barrel. That was the original mindset. And the change that we made here was we ended up porting the slide, which I really do like. It adds a lot of detailed character to the slide, but we did not end up porting the barrel. So the way in which it would lay inside of the slide, I'll show you guys here in a second, it really just didn't seem like we were going to get a really good angle, and I wanted to make sure that we're not just causing an issue where whenever a round goes down range, it's just bleeding gases off into the side of the slide and not out through the actual created port. And we didn't want to do that, because if somebody has their hand on the side or something along that line, you can get burnt. You can end up getting a lot of extra crap and junk that comes out the side, of course. It also adds all that extra filth to it. So you're going to notice that this coating came out extremely nice. So guys, obviously we outsourced this. This is sent out. We ended up putting a little bit of oil on here to wear the slide and the barrel together. So this is a little bit darker right in this zone where we have a little bit of oil. That'll end up getting cleaned off before the customer gets it back. But that's why you might see a little bit of a tone change. We'll oil this, and we'll oil this, and then we'll run hand cycle the slide about 100 to 150 times just to make sure everything is real slick inside of there. We are adding extra layers here between Cerakote and between the titanium nitride on the outside, so we just want to make sure that when they get it back, everything seems to be running like it's supposed to. So the Hive barrel, now of course, if you guys didn't know, we do sell these barrels. There is a hardware tab on the webpage. You're actually able to go right there and click it and purchase one. We would ship it to you. Of course, a lot of people want to have it done with a package because they want it to fit the frame, fit the slide, that kind of thing, which is kind of what we did here today. We kept the serial number on it, which matches the overall gun. So this is going to go in here. Kind of wanted to show you guys that. So the way in which the port is right here, and if you look at it, it really doesn't align straight in line this way, I guess is the best way to say that. So we would end up cutting a lot more of material out instead of having a direct port. Of course, we could have cut the port a little bit higher and it would have probably ejected out through there. What we didn't want to do is have it eject out through the top, any gases, or out through the side. Okay, so that just was a big no-no. We just said, I really like the way it looks, but at the end of the day, we should probably not port this particular barrel in the way in which this lays out, okay? And that's why you guys see a lot of like the 19 compensated Glocks. They've got a big open area up here on the top, and usually that port is rolled. It's actually up on the top. It's not on the side at all. The deal with us is that by the time we shave the side and do the top and do the side pattern, we really don't want to cut into either one of those patterns and lose any of that detail to add a port there. I think the port was a great idea. Unfortunately, it just didn't lay well with this pattern and with that pattern as a standalone service where we could have maybe readjusted it, moved it a little bit more. Probably would have worked out extremely well. So we're going to set this down. What we're going to do now is we're going to talk about the frame. So we ended up doing the Hive on the frame down through here. So we shave the sides here, do the Hive. We ended up doing the battle wear. You guys can see this. We'll show some more pictures outside. We do a little grippy thing here as well. So that's all done. So really nice pattern overall through here. So this is obviously battle worn black in what's technically a burnt bronze, just mid gold color is what it is. We have a special formula that we use. We don't just straight up usually use burnt bronze and black if we're trying to achieve a color combination with a barrel. So that way they kind of seamlessly go together. So we do adjust that color a little bit, but overall really, really nice. I like the way that we see some what I would call is blended wear. A lot of the companies out there just kind of harshly wear stuff, and what you end up getting is you end up getting a lot of, I don't know, scratch detail is what I would call. So guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to assemble this kind of behind the camera to make sure I get everything together here correctly. And we don't really try to do it that way because whenever you do it that way, it really just doesn't look natural. So in my opinion, it doesn't flow very well. It ends up looking like somebody just scratched the crap out of the side of the gun and then they colored it and they're like, yeah, it looks awesome. There's your battle worn. We want to end up doing something where it's a color, a second color, they're seamlessly blended together, and then of course they're cleared. So, and the idea behind that is to give you back that uniformed based color over the entire thing, not just over one piece or the other, or continue to peel or leave raw metal exposed to the elements, especially with it being a Glock since they're a steel slide and not a stainless slide. So those are kind of the details behind that a little bit. Guys, if you have not been following the channel, boy, you sure are missing out. There's a lot of big builds. This happens to be one of them. We've got a lot of other builds coming up. I know we've got a G3 that's right around the corner. We have a G44, which I actually finished this week. So we're going to see that anytime soon. It may actually come out before this video. I'm not 100% sure there. So if you're seeing this video, go back and look. There's a possibility that video already came out. I know that there's a big kind of just a big market change over that because it's a polymer slide. And what do we get? You know, how does it work? Can we stipple it? Is it the same as the grip? So we talk about all that in the video. We do give you the understanding of, hey, if you are a laser company, what, you know, can you process these slides? And if you can process them, what should you be doing? So there happens to be a lot of kind of direction pointing there, maybe which way you should be going. Instagram and Facebook is definitely the place to be. This is where you guys are always going to see this stuff first. It's posted there usually a couple days before the video comes out.